Hi. Thank you. Hello, Belgrade. Can anyone understand me? All right, that's good. That could have been awkward.
We're clicked.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Right, shall we start on the presentation? We're pressed for time. I'll try and speak at a good speed so you can understand, but there's lots to get through. There's lots I want to tell you about. And I will do my best to talk to all of you. So I'll do my impression of an owl as I kind of move my head around to speak to every level and every corner. My talk is called, ironically, Stop Shouting, Make Yourself Useful. And it's really a plea for brands, advertisers, people in marketing to think of their marketing channel not just as a kind of platform to shout from, but actually to prove what they're promising from their brand. So today's agenda is the introduction. That's this bit, which I'm doing right now. Then I'll be giving you a brief history of brand utility, a few pointers of where you can start, making your marketing more useful to consumers, some examples, and the how and the why. So who am I? My name is Jonny Watson. I'm a digital creative director at VCCP. We have offices in London. Your nearest offices are in Prague and Berlin. We have offices in Spain, America, and Australia as well. We're a full-service integrated advertising agency, but mainly based in London. So the marketing landscape is very crowded. This is Times Square, and it's a typical example of just how many ads we'll see, marketing messages every day, between 4,000 and 10,000, even if you just count logos on things and all the brand associations that you feel when you see those brands. This is a quote from Samuel Johnson from 300 years ago, 250 years ago. He wrote the first dictionary, so he knew a lot about words. And this is during the times where he might see maybe a dozen adverts every day, and he was even thinking that's too many. So he had said, advertisements are now so numerous that they are very negligently perused, and it is therefore necessary to gain attention by magnificence of promises and eloquence, sometimes sublime and sometimes pathetic. And really, that's the same problem today. Everyone's shouting, trying to get their message across. Maybe there's an easier way to cut through the noise and stand out from the crowd. So this is a brief history. It's very brief. It's only two examples. You'll be familiar with the oil companies that started off in the States, where they would print out these maps so that motorists could drive around, find their way around, and use their motor cars, and they wouldn't run out of petrol or gas, as they say in America. So these maps came in handy for that purpose. And they became so useful that customers were actually willing to pay for them. So it started to become a money-making enterprise. And then they became so useful that the Nazis began to use them to plan their invasions in the Second World War. And then just to complete the circle, Michelin produced maps of the battles from the Second World War. So everyone was kind of recycling off each other's maps. But that was one way of adding value, inadvertently, perhaps. And then you'll be familiar with this book, the Guinness Book of Records. It was the idea of Sir Hugh Beaver, who was managing director of Guinness at the time. And he had this idea back in the days when managing director still had good ideas. He was out shooting, and he was trying to shoot a golden plover. And he missed it. And he turned to his colleague next to him and said, "I'm sure that's the fastest European game bird, is it not?" And his colleague said, "No, I think it's the red grouse." And so they realized that between them they couldn't settle the argument. There was nothing to decide what was fact and what was fiction. So he thought, these are the sorts of conversations that are going on around the world, or around the UK in pubs and bars and stuff like that. So what if Guinness could own that conversation? So that's when he came up with the Guinness Book of World Records idea. So it wasn't a marketing giveaway. It was a marketing giveaway. It wasn't supposed to be a moneymaker. So the first edition was actually waterproof, so landlords could have it in the bars and the pubs, and spilling beer on it, it didn't matter. You could still use it. So they could settle arguments and have fewer fights. And it's become the world's best-selling copyright book ever. So that's quite a success. You'll be glad to know that Serbia is represented. Your man Dalibor Jablanovic is holds the record for balancing 31 spoons on his face. I have 32 spoons here, and at the first coffee break, we'll see if we can beat him. He also holds the most records for holding the most records in Serbia. Okay, so let's get back on topic. Everyone, is this a good pace? Can everyone understand what I'm saying? Good, excellent. So this is a brand world. Most brands will have one of these. If you work in marketing, I'd be surprised if you haven't seen one. It's a chart that shows what you stand for, your values, your beliefs, how you behave, how you talk, and that sort of thing. And at the core of it is the core of your brand, your core belief that if you cut your brand through the middle, that would be the center. And another word to describe this is that M&C Saatchi came up with this one-word equity, which is if you could distill everything that your brand stands for into one word, what would it be? And so a couple of examples would be Land Rover is adventure, Coca-Cola, vending machine stunts. No, it's actually happiness, but they have been doing a lot of vending machine stunts lately, so that's kind of how I see their one-word equity. And then this chap, Jim Stengel, who was General Marketing Officer at Procter & Gamble, came up with the idea of the brand ideal. And a brand ideal is the brand's inspirational reason for being. So it's like the North Star. It's a higher benefit that you can offer to consumers with your product, and it's an end goal and a mission, so that everything that you do from here until there is the journey, and you benchmark all your marketing against that and how you bring customers with you. And it actually helps unite people internally around that mission, as well as customers being aware of kind of what you stand for and what you're aiming to achieve. So, for example, Red Bull's one is to uplift mind and body. It exists to energize the world. And what Jim Stengel did is he drew up a list of 50, which he called the Stengel 50. I'm not expecting you to read them all off there, but I have a couple. But all these 50 had one thing in common, is they were outperforming their rivals because they had a brand ideal they were working to. Apple's is to empower creative exploration and self-expression, or to make art directors and designers to feel superior. Google's, thank you. Google's is to immediately satisfy your every curiosity. So shades of Guinness there in a way. So how are brands being useful today? I'm going to show you some examples. Now, these are from the offline world, so that's the world where you look away from your screen or shut your computer. This is for a campaign for IBM, and they were running a smarter cities thing. Obviously, in practice, it was a digital thing about transport and data analytics, but they used offline real-world examples to demonstrate smarter thinking. So a shelter, a seat, and a ramp. Probably someone from the advertising agency demonstrating that ramp. This is from Pacific Gas and Electric, and it was a solar-powered billboard, and this produced enough electricity to power enough power for a family of 4. But it was using an advertising space to what we say, walk the walk. It's the English phrase to talk the talk, which you're very good at saying you're good at something, but actually walking the walk is proving that you're doing it. And then this is the first video example. It was an Achu app you could have on your smartphone from Kleenex that helped you track colds and flu outbreaks across the US, so you could stock up on tissues ahead of time.
Coughs, fevers, aches, and pains. Missed days at school and at work. If there was a way to know when cold and flu were coming, you'd prepare your family. Take extra precautions. This year, you can. Introducing Achoo by Kleenex, the first and only tool that can predict when cold and flu will reach your area. Powered by a team of top scientists analysts, and the latest CDC information, Achoo by Kleenex can actually fit your family's risk of cold and flu up to 3 weeks in advance, giving you the foresight you need to be prepared. Set custom alerts for cold and flu levels near you. Send friends and family their own local forecasts. See how symptoms are spreading across the country and find helpful advice to get your family through the season, no matter what lies ahead. Achoo by Kleenex. Help your family stay ahead of cold and flu.
So there's nothing like scaring people into buying tissues, which is what Kleenex did there. This is a store. Ryman is a store in the UK that sells. It's a stationer's office supplies, so it sells printer ink, paper, faxes. People still buy faxes? No, they probably don't. Shredders, maybe. And they came up with this idea to make their customers feel valued and that they were thinking of them. They created this font called Ryman Eco, and as you'll see, it's got cutouts in it, so you use less ink. So you have to borrow less money to buy more ink when you want to print things. So that was a nice thought to adding value to their customers. This was a very strong beer, 7%, Bock beer. I think it's either in Austria or Germany. So it's not the sort of beer you want to have and then drive home. So what they did is they made the label your bus ticket home. So you could get maybe 4 or 5 tickets of a night and you didn't have to drive home. So that was good thinking, knowing what the product did and how to help consumers enjoy it without worrying about getting home. Now, I can't stand here and preach to you about you must make your marketing more useful without showing an example of something that I've done, practice what I preach. So this is a brand, Sif. I don't know if it exists here. It exists in lots of countries. But families rely on it to protect them from germs around the house, that sort of thing. So our thinking was, if we're taking it into a digital domain, can Sif protect your family from the internet?
Clicked on a really funny website, but it's just as easy to find things that aren't funny at all. You just don't know.
As parents, we want our children to experience the wonders of the web without straying into areas they're too young to see. But the disturbing truth is that the average age a child first experiences pornography online is now as young as 8. Sif the Web is a unique and ingenious new iPad app. Downloaded free from the iTunes App Store, one simple tap on the icon automatically sets up comprehensive parental controls. So, 4.2 million sites you wouldn't want your kids to see are instantly blocked. From the home screen, kids can choose from a selection of popular child-friendly sites, or they can safe search for specific terms or websites. But Sif the Web goes a lot further. It will also clean up filthy language right across the web, recognizing over 4,000 dirty words and replacing them with squeaky clean ones. A unique filter swaps them out before displaying the page, so children won't know there's anything grubby there to begin with. So now Sif does what no other cleaner has done before, cleaning the internet as well as our home.
So that was an interesting afternoon. Oh, thank you. You're still out there. That's good. No, that was an interesting afternoon. I had a list of 4,000 swear words and had to find translations that were clean, squeaky clean for children. But that was better than working, I suppose. This, I think, was done with an eye on awards juries. I've looked at how many people have downloaded this app. Suspiciously few, but it's an interesting idea about pushing what can be done in an advert. So this was a back page ad. And you could peel off that strip with the Nivea button on it, and you get your child to wear this strap, and then you download the app. It's all very simple. Download the app, and it'll track your child from. If it wanders too far away, it will alert you. So it kind of does the parenting for you while you enjoy the beach. I'll skim past that one because I think we'll be tight for time. This is a really simple one. I love this idea. I mean, it's a back page ad for Coca-Cola. They stand for bringing happiness. They do a lot of music sponsorship, and they do a lot of print advertising. So they've brought them all together here by creating a bit of cardboard engineering where you roll the magazine up, insert your iPhone, and it turns it into a speaker. It's not the best speaker, but it's better than nothing. It's a really smart piece of thinking there. And this is win-win. Drinking water is obviously very healthy, and the water companies like Vittel would like you to drink more of it. So this was a really clever piece of thinking to remind people that they need to keep drinking water throughout the day. And then another way of repurposing packaging, so McDonald's Happy Meals let you turn their Happy Meal box into a pair of VR goggles. Just show you a little glimpse of.
Here's how to update the world's most iconic box. Pop out the eye and nose holes. Remove the lens pack and unfold the box completely. Then tear along the perforated edges. Now fold the remaining part of the box and slide the lens pack inside, followed by your mobile phone. You've done it! Meet Happy Goggles, a virtual reality viewer made from a Happy Meal box. To find out more, visit happygoggles.se.
So there you've got added value, and you've got recycling. Ticks all the boxes. It's very good thinking indeed. And then lastly in this section, Audi wanted to promote their energy-saving electric cars. So they created an Android app that saved energy on your mobile phone. So it would turn off all the apps that were working away in the background, draining your battery. So just a really simple parallel and metaphor for saving energy. What they do in the real world, they can do in the digital space and help consumers in the digital space. And so I've shared some offline and online examples, and they're all sort of I haven't shown any display advertising. That's not to say display doesn't have a role in that. It can drive, display advertising can drive people to these digital tools and things that will help them out. But you can also create brand utility from within a banner, and I've got some examples to share. So IKEA's sort of core brand value was making the most of your space, and in this example they had 300 by 250 pixels to make the most of.
Hi, we're Swedish. Here at IKEA, we think you should always make the most of your space. It's at the heart of what we do. We have innovative products that fold away to nothing and offer the smartest storage solutions. But our stores are pretty big. They have to be, to fit the comfy chairs, beautiful beds, fabler crocodiles, and 2-foot bonsai trees. Still, we wanted to demonstrate our commitment to saving space, so we created the smallest IKEA store in the world, measuring just 10.5 times 8.8 centimeter. It's an entire IKEA store in a web banner. Just like our full-size stores, you can search by department, browse, and buy. Trevlig shopping. That's Swedish too.
So yeah, so that will cost a bit more to produce than a standard display ad, but I think it's worth it. Yes, you'll need more skill sets, it'll need deeper thinking, but I think it really underscores your brand promise to a consumer if you can demonstrate what you're talking about rather than just make an empty promise and shout a message at them. And they also, I'll spin through this because I think we'll run out of time, but this was a banner that gave you a street view tour from where you live to the nearest IKEA pickup point. This is for Canada, where they only have 8 stores covering hundreds of thousands of square miles. So they brought in these pickup points, so you could order your IKEA stuff and it would be delivered to those pickup points. And this was to make a point of showing how close these pickup points were. So it showed you a sort of high-speed drive from your home to the pickup point. It was a really, and that was all in the space of a banner, so really cleverly done. And then this was for Movano vans, and their core promise was about moving things, and so the digital equivalent of that was moving files around the internet. So from this banner, you could upload a file and send it to a friend through the van, which is quite a clever concept. So skipping to the how and the why, some places to start, some techniques you can use. Digital is very good at simplifying things. Computers are amazing at taking complicated equations, simplifying them, and giving humans information that they need quickly. Enhancing, you can enhance an offline product with an online solution. I guess Sift the Web is an example of that, where you draw a metaphor or a parallel between the real world and the digital world. Calculating is similar to simplifying. The computers are just good at that, better than humans. So why not help your consumers out by taking a shortcut online? Information, informing them. Real-time data. Plug in APIs from all different data sources. Getting the information they need where they need it. And it's that's a really valuable source of information. Waiting for a train, I need to know how long it's going to be and when it's going to arrive. And then the other one is entertainment. That's a simple one. That still counts as utility. It's still useful to us as humans. We want to be entertained and diverted. So that can be games, it can be quizzes, it can be all sorts of things. And then what shape would these things form? Well, back when smartphones first came out and the App Store went crazy and there was an app for everything, so that was always a quick answer, but it's still an answer. I mean, if you look at all the apps on your phone, they are branded and they are useful to you. That's why you have them on your phone. So the apps is certainly one place to put them. And web-based tools, so people don't have to download stuff. It's easier. You can do it in a mobile. You can do it on a desktop. Social channels, very interesting new use of Facebook Messenger these days, using chatbots, where there's an example of National Geographic. You could have a conversation with Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it was an educational tool, so kids could have a chat with this dinosaur and find out how it died and that sort of thing. In-store display, again, if you really want to seal the deal and make the sale, you can use data and live customer data to bring your message to people when they're in a purchasing environment. And the live data where people need it, like I say, on train platforms, or knowing where people are and serving them the information that they need to know at that time. And they will thank you for it, and they will keep you close to their hearts. So one quick win is, can I replicate what our site does in a banner? And you can think of it as a parallel between banks and cash machines. So your website could be the bank, but a cash machine does the same sort of thing that a bank does, but it's easier to get to. You can put it in numerous places. And so questions to ask yourself when you're doing this to kind of refine your thinking is, what's our core promise? Going back to that one word, equity, or your brand ideal. And can we bring a real world benefit to digital? So is there something you do in the real world that you can replicate in the digital domain? What's relevant? Well, you could do something really incredible and amazing and entertaining, but if it doesn't have any relation to do with your brand, people are going to go, well, that's great, but I'm not going to remember it, because there's a bit of a disconnect. What do people need? Our needs are constantly changing, and you need to stay ahead of the market here. And where and when do they need it? So it's really getting into the customer's mindset, what's going to serve them best and where. So I'll tell you for why you should consider it, because digital is a godsend. It enables you to do all this stuff for much less than you would, say, if you were trying to add utility by producing something real in a factory in China and everything. Just the costs involved are so much cheaper if it's digital, and you can still upgrade an offline product with with digital. So, for example, a toothbrush that you buy for your child, and you can have an app that plays a film that lasts 2 minutes, and that's as long as you want your child to be brushing their teeth. That's a way of adding value to the experience and to the product, to upgrading a digital upgrade to an offline product. It builds emotional affinity. People will like you if you do something useful for them. It happens in real life. If I'm in an office and I want to borrow a stapler, and someone says, yes, here's my stapler, you can borrow it. And I think, good, I'm feeling emotional affinity to my colleague and the stapler. It reinforces the proposition. So again, it's, don't just tell people. People will believe it when they see it. So show them, deliver on your promise rather than just shouting from a billboard or a banner. And it proves your point. It's in this post-fact world, you can prove a truth there and then using this kind of technique. And I've already talked about upgrading the product. It's just adding more value. Once that product's been let out into the world, you can upgrade it like an app can be upgraded. And people come to you if it's useful to you. You'll go back to it. Why not? It's we don't care what brand it is. If it's useful, we'll buy into it. And it lasts longer than an ad. I spent a year making a TV ad that was on air for 3 weeks. So it'd be nice to think that you could build an app or something that people will use over and over, and for longer than it took for you to make it. I think we're all familiar with that scenario. So I'm not very good at drawing charts, so I'm just asking you to imagine a chart here that shows longer and deeper customer engagement with brand X. How's your imagination doing today? Is it good? Does it look good? And the biggest win of all, customers will like you. That's what we want. We want to be liked, don't we? I want to be liked. I'm here in front of you. I want you to like me. So what am I saying? I'm saying, next time you're sat down with a brief, don't just ask, what can we say? Ask, what can we do? And a quote to end on, the best way to advertise your brand might not be an ad. And that was said by Jonny Watson, the guy at the front talking. And by the way, the golden plover is the fastest European game bird. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Jonny? Oh, we have. Okay, just a second. Here's a mic.
Hello. Thank you. Regarding the practical advertising that you have mentioned, which would you say of the 3 types that you have mentioned, whether the advert itself is practical, like the IBM ones that you have shown, the idea behind the product, like the SIF one where clean was mentioned, is it more important to stress the idea, the product, or to make the advert itself practical and interesting to the customer?
It feels like it's a combination of all 3. Certainly, I think that you're closest on the last point. It has to be relevant so that it's, so we talk about cleaning for SIF. It makes sense that you already have a right to say, we own the area of cleaning, and so it's not too big a step to move from the real world into digital. People feel that you have a right to be there and say that. But I think the best answer is really all 3. The more value you can, bring from an ad, the better. I just think, it can be simple postcode search, form filling. Start a process from within the banner, and that can actually help drive them into a purchase funnel. If you can start from within the banner rather than relying on a click. Save a click.
So to focus more on the advert rather than the product itself, to make the advert more interesting for the viewer.
Well, it's more interesting if it's doing something for you, I think.
Yes.
I think people are always interested. If someone says, I can help you, people are always interested to hear what you've got to say.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm the yellow one on the balcony. I wanted to ask you whether the ideas that you just presented are very good. For example, I think Happy Goggles. Do you have a problem selling it to the client? He comes with the proposition to boost his sales, and you propose ideas such as like that. Do they say, just boost my sales? Can you just do what you're told? And how do you sell an idea like that to a client who's a bit resilient? Thank you.
No, I understand that situation very well. And it's different. I mean, very often clients, they have targets they have to hit, and you need to reassure them that they will hit those targets if they spend their marketing money on this sort of thing. There are some, I think Nicole will come on to it in her talk, and there are some ways of measuring the success of a campaign. One way is through revenue you expect to gain from it. Some of it is just improving your reputation, and that needs to be done through qualitative research. But it's hard to promise because that's guesswork. I mean, it makes sense, but it's difficult to quantify for a client up front. So it is difficult. But I think if you show examples to your clients, I guess it's about thinking smart. Maybe start small, lower cost within the banner ideas, and then maybe grow out. I mean, the Sift the Web thing was done for relatively small amount of money. I think it was around 60,000 British pounds, and we turned it around in about 5 weeks. Funnily enough, just in time to get it into the App Store in time for the Cannes Awards judging thing. I don't know how that happened, but it was a relatively small figure. So the company the size of Unilever, which is ultimately the client there, they were happy to go for it. But it's the way of standing out. Every client wants to stand out, surely. Otherwise, you're just wallpapering another billboard or another banner. It's wallpaper. We see past it.
Can I ask a question? Hi.
Hi.
Should marketing agencies have marketing agencies? Meaning, do marketing agencies need marketing departments within marketing agencies to market their own marketing agencies?
That's
because I don't think that any marketing agency actually has the marketing department about themselves. They're selling the marketing services, but not doing the marketing for themselves.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going with that. I mean, yeah, we do have an innovations lead at VCCP, a guy called Will Harvey, who stays on top of all this sort of stuff, all the VR stuff, all the cutting edge stuff, and that, I think clients like to know that you're on top of that, even if they're not buying it that day. That they feel reassured that their agency is looking out and they're missing. Because the worst thing for a client is their big rival goes and does something amazing that they should have thought of because their agency took their eye off the ball. So I think it's certainly worth having an innovation director or lead who can keep your client's eyes open. I mean, one of our brands is called comparethemarket.com, which is an insurance comparison website in the UK, and we tried to push the idea of Snapchat filters for a campaign about 6 months ago, and they kind of like, oh, I don't know, it's a bit expensive and that sort of thing. But if you keep knocking on the door, eventually it's not so scary, it becomes more familiar to them if you introduce stuff early on. So now we're getting to the point now where our Christmas campaign, which will come out next week, does have Snapchat filters on, and that will form part of a big integrated campaign. So I guess you just try and open the door gradually if you can't kick it open.
I'm not satisfied. I'm sorry. No, the main question is, should our agencies that we work in have dedicated marketing departments for their own services? Do you understand? Like, I want to dedicate 3 people for a marketing of my own agency. And then I hire an agency to advertise myself. Do you understand?
I do a little bit, but if you're a good agency, you should be able to...
Exactly. You should be able to do what? To advertise yourself, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have the marketing department within your company, of your own company.
Yes.
While clients have it.
Yes. I'm trying to satisfy you. Well, the work you do as an agency is the best advert for your own agency. I'm starting to talk in circles now as well, but I don't think Okay, I'm trying to think of an analogy. I think if you employ freelancers to pitch for new business, that's a bit misleading to a new client because you're using people that don't work for you. They're not really representing your agency, they're borrowed, if you like. So I think maybe that's the same principle for marketing your own agency. It needs to be your own people, marketing.
In the marketing agency.
Yeah. Is it break time yet?
Any more questions for Mr. Watson? If there are any, you can use the coffee break afterwards. Jonny will be here and you can ask him some more questions. Please.
Great. Thank you.
Give me an applause. Thank you. Thank you. I always wanted to do this, as Sherlock would say, thank you, my dear Watson.
There we are. Okay. Please, I can help you out.
Thank you. Okay. Može, slobodno.